Captain Maria Santos stood at the edge of New Montana's farming district, watching smoke billow from what had been her home for the past 5 years. The colony's defensive systems, supposedly state-of-the-art, hadn't even registered the Vorthok ships until they were already on the ground. 300 colonists taken, another 100 left broken and bleeding. Classic predator behavior. Call the weak, capture the strong. "They took my daughters," whispered Dr. Elias Chun, the colony's lead agronomist. His hands trembled as he clutched a small stuffed bear-all that remained of his children's presents. "Why leave me behind?" Maria's jaw tightened. "Breeding stock," she said flatly. "They think long-term." The Vorthok had been hunting sentient species for millennia, cataloging them like trophies. Humans were just their newest acquisition, soft-skinned bipeds with no natural armor or weapons. Perfect prey. What Huntmaster Krex then couldn't understand, as he watched the humans being processed aboard his flagship, was why this particular prey fascinated him so much. Unlike the four-armed Juraxians who fought with honor until the end, or the crystalline myth who broke into 1,000 glittering pieces when cornered, these humans showed something different. "Have the specimens been prepared for the Grand Centennial?" asked Sub-Commander Xerix, his secondary eyelids blinking with anticipation. Krex then studied the surveillance feeds. One human female had been separated from 2 smaller ones' offspring. Likely, instead of cowering, she had attacked 3 warriors with nothing but a metal farming tool before being subdued. Even now, restrained in the holding chamber, her eyes burned with something Krexthen had never seen in prey before. "This species shows unusual behavior patterns," he noted. "They don't seem to understand their prey." In the command center of what remained of the colony, Maria was already organizing. Former miners, farmers, teachers, it didn't matter what they were before. Now they were soldiers. "The Vorthok have been hunting civilizations across 50 galaxies," explained Tamir. Nazari, a university xenobiologist who'd been studying the reptilian empire before they arrived. "They consider it their divine right." Maria loaded a salvaged pulse rifle. "And they've never met humans before," she said quietly. "We've been fighting uphill battles since we crawled out of the mud. And unlike them, we don't hunt for sport, we hunt to survive." Unknown to the Vorthok, they hadn't just found new prey. They'd awakened humanity's darkest instinct, the need to fight back. Huntmaster Krex, Fens. Mandibles clicked in confusion as he reviewed the casualty reports. 3 hunting parties lost in as many weeks. Impossible. No prey species had ever mounted such effective counterattacks. "The humans are employing tactics we've never encountered," admitted Security Chief Drask. "They don't fight like warriors. They fight like vermin." "Explain," demanded Krexthen. "They avoid direct confrontation. They set traps. They use our size against us. Worst of all, they're learning our technology at an alarming rate." The Vorthok Empire had always relied on technological superiority and physical dominance. But what good was armor when the humans targeted the joints? What good were thermal sensors when the humans covered themselves in mud and moved only in storms? On Earth's northern continent, Maria Santos had established Alpha Base in an abandoned mine system. The resistance network now spanned 7 planets, with communication relays hidden in asteroid belts between systems. "They think we're just scattered survivors," Maria told the assembled fighters. Among them was Jae-Sun Park, a former robotics engineer who'd lost his entire family during the raids on New Sol Colony. "Their neural interfaces are similar to systems I worked with," Jia-Sun explained, holding up a device salvaged from a dead Vorthok warrior. "I can reverse engineer this to track their communications." Beside him, Dr. Chun had transformed from broken father to determined scientist. "Their physiology suggests vulnerabilities to certain sound frequencies," he said. "We can weaponize that The most surprising addition to their ranks was Kyo, an 8-year-old girl who'd hidden in a ventilation shaft during the initial raid. She'd watched her parents taken, but managed to steal a Vorthic data tablet before escaping. Their language uses patterns, she explained with the simple clarity of a child. I can read some of it now. Maria remembered something her grandfather, a historian, once told her about human history. We've always been prey animals who decided to become predators instead. Now, looking at these survivors turned warriors, she understood what he meant. In his private chambers, Krex then reviewed footage of captured hunting parties. The Vorthic warriors, proud and fearless, now showed something new in their eyes as humans approached their cages. The Grand Centennial Arena orbited a gas giant in the Caraxes system, a massive structure built to accommodate thousands of Vorthic spectators. Huntmaster Krex then stood in his ceremonial armor, increasingly troubled as he addressed the High Council. The human specimens are problematic, he admitted reluctantly. They don't behave according to any established prey patterns. Council Elder Thraz, her scales dull with age, leaned forward. Elaborate. When we separate them, they form new packs immediately. When we remove their leaders, new ones emerge. When we adapt our tactics, they adapt faster. What Krex then couldn't bring himself to say was that 3 more hunting vessels had gone completely silent. Not defeated in glorious combat, simply vanished. Meanwhile, humanity's resistance had evolved into something the Vorthic couldn't comprehend. Maria's network now included Lieutenant Commander Jackson Reed, whose Special Tactics Unit had been deployed to investigate colony attacks before being ambushed. His military expertise complemented Maria's guerrilla approach. They see us as animals to be hunted, Reed explained during a strategy session. That's their fundamental mistake. They don't understand that humans domesticated wolves, tamed horses, and turned the most dangerous predators on Earth into house pets. We don't just fight nature, we reshape it. This philosophy led to their boldest move yet. During a raid on a Vorthic supply depot, they didn't just steal weapons, they captured a juvenile Vorthic alive, the young warrior, barely 7 feet tall with scales still soft, thrashed against restraints designed by Jason. I am Skreek, son of Huntmaster Xerix. I will not beg for mercy from prey. Maria approached carefully. We're not going to hurt you, Skreek. We're going to educate you. Over weeks, Kyo would sit near the Vorthic youth, teaching him human words while learning his language. Dr. Chon studied his biology, not to exploit weaknesses, but to understand his needs. This wasn't just tactical, it was something uniquely human. What are you doing? Skreek eventually asked Kyo as she shared her rations with him. Showing you who we really are, she replied simply. Across the stars, reports reached the Grand Arena of something unprecedented. Humans weren't just fighting back, they were taking Vorthic young and, instead of killing them, were somehow turning them against their own kind. The Empire had never faced an enemy that didn't just want to survive, but wanted to convert. Asterisk alarms blared throughout the Grand Centennial Arena as Huntmaster Krex then rushed to the security center. The impossible had happened. Humans had infiltrated the holy sanctum of the hunt itself. How? He roared at his subordinates. How did prey animals breach our defenses? The answer came from the youngest among them. Junior Hunt Scout Tekka, who had been studying human behavior patterns, spoke hesitantly. They ... They used our own techniques against us. They studied us as we studied them. On the lower levels, Maria Santos led a strike team through maintenance tunnels mapped out by Skreek, who now moved alongside humans as an ally. The young Vorthic had come to understand something his people had forgotten in millennia of dominance. Predators who cannot adapt become extinct. The arena's central chamber houses their ancestral trophy hall, Skreek explained. Every species they've hunted to extinction is cataloged there. It's their most sacred place. Jackson Reed's team had already secured the communications hub. Broadcasting channels captured. His voice crackled over the comm. When you reach the hall, every Vorthic ship and colony will see whatever you show them. Dr. Chun and Jay Sun operated from a captured Vorthic vessel in orbit, using the ship's systems to override security protocols. Keo sat between them, translating. Command codes in real time. The humans aren't just fighting back, Skreek had told Maria during the mission planning. You're hunting the hunters. My people have no concept for this. As they breached the trophy hall, Maria finally understood the true nature of their enemy. Thousands of display cases contained the preserved remains of species from across the galaxy, each labeled with data about their capture. Resistance. An ultimate extinction dot at the far end stood an empty display case labeled Human, with specifications already being recorded. Physically weak, but unusually adaptable. Dangerous in groups. Recommended extinction strategy. Isolate and eliminate. Leadership, then process remaining population gradually. Maria placed a data core at the center of the hall. Activate the transmission, she ordered. Across Vorthic space, every communication device suddenly displayed the same image. Humans not as prey, but as teachers, with young Vorthic learning alongside them. And behind them, the empty display case meant for humanity's remains. Asterisk, the Grand Council of the Vorthic. Empire convened an emergency session for the first time in 12,000 years. The arena, once the symbol of their dominance, had been compromised. Not by superior force, but by something they had no name for in their language. Elder Thraz, oldest of the council, addressed the assembled huntmasters. For millennia, we have defined ourselves as the galaxy's apex predators. But these humans, she struggled to find the words. They do not accept their place in the natural order. From his position of disgrace, Krex then spoke. They aren't merely prey that fights back. There's something else entirely. They take our young, and instead of consuming them, they change them. On Earth, the first diplomatic summit between humans and Vorthic representatives was underway. Maria Santos and her team sat across from a delegation of younger Vorthic, led by Skreek now, bearing the unprecedented title of Peace Seeker. My elders cannot comprehend what has happened, Skreek explained. Their worldview allows only for predator and prey. What you humans represent is beyond their understanding. Jackson Reed leaned forward. And what do we represent, exactly? Skreek's inner eyelids blinked thoughtfully. You are predators who chose not to be. You could have exterminated our hunting parties, bombarded our worlds from orbit. Instead you adopted us, like the wolves your ancestors transformed into companions. Keo, now 10 and fluent in the Vorthic language, translated for those without neural implants. Dr. Chun presented his findings on Vorthic human biology, proving that cooperation was more beneficial to both species than conflict. Maria looked out at the assembly humans, Vorthic, and representatives from a dozen species previously hunted by the Empire. We're not interested in reversing the hierarchy, she explained. That's still thinking like predators. We're offering something your kind has never encountered in alternative to the hunt itself. The treaty that emerged from those meetings became known across the galaxy as the Santos Doctrine. No species would be prey again. Those with power would use it to protect, not hunt. The Vorthic young, raised with this new philosophy, began to see their ancestral practices not as glorious tradition, but as primitive limitation. Centuries later, when new spacefaring civilizations emerged into the galactic community, they would be met not by hunting parties, but by diplomatic envoys of both humans and Vorthic. A galaxy's most feared predators now served as its most dedicated guardians. A transformation that began when humans refused to be game and showed the hunters a better way to live. The Vorthik Trophy Hall was transformed into a memorial and museum, with one display case remaining empty, bearing a simple inscription in both languages. For the species that taught predators to protect.